Right then, Manchester United have sleepwalked into being Deadwood FC. A team with so many useless players, so many players who aren't worth the wages that they are getting. A squad assembled from multiple managers over the course of a decade without any sort of clear direction. Let's have a look how we can fix that. So let's have a look at first then the problem. The problem that United have got is that we have got a squad full of very expensively assembled players that still aren't good enough to win a title. We have got a squad full of players from several different managers. And the problem with having that from several different managers, especially when they have been here a decade, some of them, is that some players are signed with one role in mind, and then that manager leaves, and the next manager's forced to deal with having that player on a very large salary and a long contract. United have lurched from one ideal to the next. Under Sir Alex Ferguson, we had a particular style of play. David Moyes was an extremely pragmatic version of that, following his appointment. Then you had Louis van Gaal, who wanted to see a bit more of a progressive, possession-based, at all costs kind of style of play, which was a little boring because we didn't have the creative players that we needed to fully utilise it. Then we went to Jose Mourinho, who was defensive and restrictive, certainly in the big games. And then you went to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, who, again, something totally different. And now it's something even different again with Ralf Rangnick. Without having a dedicated director of football, Manchester United have lurched from one extreme to the next without any sort of clear plan. And by allowing the club to lurch from one plan to the next without any sort of cohesion or long-term thinking, you've ended up with a load of players who are not good enough for Manchester United, are not suited to the manager that is in the chair at the moment, and you've simply wasted the careers and the transfers of the players that you've bought. We signed Harry Maguire and Aaron Wan-Bissaka, for example, to be counter-attacking players, and they worked for the most part as counter-attacking players. But as Manchester United settled following the appointment of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, the demand was there for United to have a more progressive style of play, a game that pushed us up higher, maybe started to press in the opposition half, a game where we looked to take the match to our opponents. And unfortunately, that style of play didn't suit Harry Maguire or Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Yet we've wasted 130 million on those two players alone, which is a sensational amount of money that could have been utilised for, other players that suited what we were trying to do. Short-term thinking, signing those two players, despite their age at the time that we signed them, didn't think about what those players would mean 3 to 5 years down the line. The problem is now, whoever you appoint, whether that's Ten Hag or Pochettino, there are a lot of players in this squad that don't actually suit either of those managers, even though they have not wildly different styles of play, but they do have different styles of play. There's players that just do not plainly suit what they're trying to do. When you look at the squad, you say, okay, out of this squad, if this was to be a front foot, attacking football style of play, how many of this 11 could you comfortably say would still be here no matter who the manager is? And you're looking at maybe a couple. Ronaldo, maybe. Sancho for sure. Varane, if he can stay fit. Bruno, that might be it. Players such as McTominay, Fred, Elanga, probably be fine as squad players. And you do need different levels of ability as squad players. Players that you go, look, you get in 5 games a season and they go, all right, cool. Not everyone can be a Ronaldo, Bruno, Pogba mentality. So how do you solve this problem? Based on recent history, it seems it can't be solved. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was doing a damn good job getting rid of the Deadwood. A damn good job. He got rid of Lukaku, he got rid of Sanchez, Young and Smalling. But he wasn't able to refresh the squad enough to be able to bring in his own talent. Louis van Gaal got a lot of really good signings and was hoping to... I'd love to have seen what the third season plan was before he got fired. But Louis van Gaal brought in a lot of very useful players. And he'd told the squad there'd be 15 vacancies and the rest will be filled with academy players. That might be on the extreme side of things, but at least there was some sort of a plan there. And as a young player coming through at Manchester United, you know you're going to get your opportunity. Whether you're good enough or not is going to be up for debate. But you know that you're going to get your opportunity to prove whether you could do it in the first team. As I said, Ollie gave the job a real good clear out, but it probably needs longer than Ollie got. And unfortunately, we've got an extremely impatient fan base that just isn't keen to see us go through what we've gone through. And because we've chased short-term success for the last 10 years, we're 10 years down the line. If we'd have appointed a manager with a 5-year plan 10 years ago, we might have already seen the fruits of that labour. Maybe we needed as a fan base to go through that cleanse where we go, Jesus Christ, how bad's this getting? Now is the time to go, no matter how long it takes, you have to stick to the principles of what we're trying to do here. If it's Eric Ten Hag, and even if it's Pochettino, even though I wouldn't like that, they have to be given the tools to transform this squad. When you look at the squad that won the Champions League for Klopp, and you look at the first 11 that he was given, there's not a lot of players that stayed around from it. And it isn't necessarily about the money spent. It's about the personnel you can bring in. You can bring in good free transfers. You can bring in good cheap buys. Yes, he spent big on Howson and Van Dijk, but you also got in those value for money signings. Somebody like a Tielemans kicking around the Premier League, going for next to nothing. He needs to be considered a priority for Manchester United. And there's other players in that sort of mixer. We all expected Harry Maguire to have a Van Dijk sort of style, or hoped he was going to have a Van Dijk style impact on Manchester United. And it's just not been the case. But that's what you hope and expect when you assign £80 million for one transfer. You're hoping this guy's going to be an absolute guaranteed success for us. And often it's not the case, especially if the plans aren't concrete enough. You sign a player with an idea to do one thing, and 2 years down the line, you're trying to play an entirely different style of football, you're going to be wasting your money. United need to choose a manager that's got a vision. And United need to give that manager the ability to see through his vision. He doesn't have to transform the entire squad. As long as there's a core of 15 or so players, which at the moment we do not have, he's going to have to add to that. It's still going to take a lot of transfer windows for him to get this right. Do the club have the patience? Do the fans have the patience? We're going to need to have the patience. Because before you know it, and I said this when he came in, when Jose was appointed, United have now stepped onto this merry-go-round of a new manager every couple of years. But the teams that works for throw extortionate amounts of money at the squad. And United just haven't really done that. Or we've done it, but the talent hasn't stuck around. The money spent on Lukaku, the money spent on Paul Pogba as of next month, the money spent on Di Maria, and so many others has just left. No point talking about how much United have spent when you're still looking at half of the first team squad being academy players, which is free, and half of the first team squad being players that we signed a long ass time ago. We are not getting the value for money coming through. All of those big money signings, most of those big money signings are not here. You know, Harry Maguire, most people would be happy to see out of the squad. Wan-Bissaka's pretty much no longer in the squad. Lukaku, gone. Paul Pogba, gone or needs to go. Where's United's big money signings? Jadon Sancho recently turned a corner and started to look like the player that we'd signed. Outside of him, how many big money signings can you honestly say have been a success? Matic, a relative success, but it was an older player signed for an extremely large amount of money. You were never going to get your value for money out of that signing. And as such, Manchester United find themselves with probably 15 players not suitable. 15 international players not suitable. You've got 3 Premier League level goalkeepers, and not one of them can be considered the best in the world. Not one of them can be considered even good enough to be what United need. We've got, it feels like a dozen centre-backs, if you include the likes of Mengi and Bernard. Mengi and Bernard are doing well in the Championship, but can they step up to play for Manchester United? It's a massive step up. I'd argue both probably still need another season on loan, maybe in the Premier League this time. You've still got Phil Jones, hilariously. You've got Victor Lindelof, you've got Varane, you've got Eric Bailly, you've got Maguire. How many of those centre-backs can be relied upon to play and play to a high level week in, week out? I'd argue none, including Varane. He's played about half the games he's been available for. At fullback, Dolo isn't good enough and Wan-Bissaka isn't good enough. You just have to pick what you're least good at when you're choosing one of them. Shaw isn't good enough and Tellez isn't good enough. And you have to pitch which one are you happier to go with. In midfield, Fred, Matic, McTominay. Again, the same thing. We know they're not good enough. We have to pick which one we're willing to put up with the most. And as we saw last weekend, we don't even have a fit centre forward. How have you spent $1 billion in the last decade on this squad and don't have a centre forward? Manchester United is absolutely full. And this isn't including even the likes of Juan Mata, Jesse Lingard, people that you just think, well, they're gone at the end of the season no matter what. United have been run horrendously. That's the legacy of Ed Woodward. United need to start being run like an actual football team, or none of this is going to change. Hey, thank you for watching the video. If you are new around these parts, then don't forget to subscribe. My channel is proudly supported by my community on Patreon. If you'd like to get a little bit of extra content, a Discord group, meetups, five-a-side games, weekly podcasts, behind the scenes, and even an occasional bit of transfer news as and when I get it, then for the price of a pint, you can show your appreciation for the content that we make and get some goodies for doing so as well. Check the link in the description or click the button right here. You'll also find all of my socials here too if you want to follow me on any of those platforms. Nice one.